it's really easy to fall into a trap of chasing the next, the new shiny toy. But good old fashioned data analysis and being curious about what's going on truly at the business level, and then pulling information that makes sense from these different areas, that's still what works the best.
Welcome back, listeners and viewers, to another episode of Commerce Untold. I'm your host, Eitan Koter, and today we have Matt Raminick, founder and CEO of Sunnyside. Sunnyside is a performance marketing agency working with leading lifestyle brands. Matt, welcome. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Matt, we just spoke about your website, which is really, really special and unique. I mean, it's really, really different. And you're just positioning your agency as a brand as well, right? Although you have many years of brand experience being on the operator side, but launching Sunnyside, it looks like you spent a lot of time trying to differentiate and make it special, right?
Yeah, that was the goal initially in the beginning, right? Because coming from brands, it's always important, right? And so for us, it was about trying to differentiate, trying to think of ourselves almost in the similar way that a brand might from a optics standpoint, and that's where we landed.
Nice. Matt, one of your famous statement is that 3x ROAS can still make a brand lose money, right? Can you walk us through maybe a real example or something you can share about that insight?
Yeah. So part of my experience was hiring, managing, and ultimately firing agencies over the years, working in-house at different brands. And so a lot of our point of view comes from that, plus a lot of our team also come from the brand side. So one of the things that kind of stuck out to me and always has been a sticky point has been that in many cases you have agency partners or you have marketers who get fixated on some of the metrics that are coming out of the platforms, whether that's Meta or Google or wherever you might be advertising. And so if you end up adding up all those different revenue totals from each of these different platforms, you end up with 10x what the actual number is in Shopify. And so when we think about measurement and what matters at the end of the day for brand leaders and the CFO, it's more about a profitable contribution number or metrics like MER and first order profitability. And so when we say that you might still be losing money even though your ROAS looks good, it's because that ROAS number can just be masking margin erosion or cash flow risk and a shrinking customer file. So a lot of times when we come in, we'll get called in to do like an audit. We'll take a look at an ad account. And one of the first things we notice, which happens more times than I'd like to admit, is that the targeting is set to show ads to past customers or, existing customers. And that's an easy layup. So of course the ROAS is going to look better because these are folks who are already warm. They've already purchased before. The platform's going to favor them over someone brand new who's cold and hasn't heard of the brand yet. So that's one of the first things we fix. So anyways, yeah, the key thing here is that the real metrics that matter are more of interest to us when looking at the totality of performance as it relates back to advertising in general, and then how that sort of maps back to the actual revenue coming into the brand.
Yes. So what are the most, I would say, important matrices that are important to you that actually hide like serious problems in a business?
Yeah, good question. For us, we like to do some work on the front end to try to get to a place where we can look at some of these metrics. So that means doing a profitability exercise and looking at sort of what all the costs are for the business. For example, what is the landed cost to ship an order, right? Like if that's credit card fees, COGS, merchant fees, everything like that. And so once we get an idea of what the margin is, then we can back into a contribution margin target. So that's a big one for us. MER is another one where we're looking at the total marketing spend, not just like within a platform. New and repeat customer orders and revenue is a big one for us. And usually where we start is we'll try to understand what's our repeat customer number that we can bank on or at least plan against, and then what the new customer number has to be in order to fill in based on where the revenue target is for the brand, and then CAC, so customer acquisition cost. And so those track against real money collected and not spent, and not overlapping platform results. So it takes away a lot of the ambiguity of what the platforms are saying versus what's actually happening at the business level.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you mentioned CAC. I think it's also important to discuss about, new customer acquisition CAC, right? Which is totally different.
Yeah,
Usually they combine everything together. It's not really what's happening in real life, right?
exactly. Yeah. And that's a big one too, is like in order to grow, you have to acquire new customers, right? In order to be profitable, you have to do it profitably. And so by separating that out and getting to a place where you can effectively be able to track that, and it's not really hard. It takes a little bit of work at the beginning to be able to back out some of those costs and everything. But once you get to a place like that, then you can make decisions based on what's happening at the business level instead of say like within the platform. And I have to say too, like the caveat to that is that of course we still look at platform level metrics and try to understand what's happening within there and what those signals are to be able to optimize day to day. But what you'll find though is that often a platform like Meta, you might have a low ROAS, but the business is doing fine and you're acquiring customers still. And the reason for that is that channel specifically is really still one of the most effective new customer acquisition channels. And so, but the ROI on those new customers might be low because of the attribution settings and how, what it's saying is what it's giving credit to itself for that purchase. So anyways, yeah, a lot of times we'll see that where it's like ROAS might be on the lower side within a platform, but the brand is actually generating the revenue and the new customers that we're looking for. And so for us, that's okay. Like we're more concerned with what's happening at the business level, creative fatigue, and trying to just, worry about like what's going on from a goal level.
Yeah, that's interesting point, right? Because different position in the company or different agencies will look at the data and will think, okay, something else is happening, right? So on the performance media side, wanted to ROAS, maybe not a good place, but still the company makes profit, attribution looks good, the probably CFO is happy, right? So
yeah, exactly. That's the yeah, it makes it a much easier conversation to ask for more money when you're seeing true profitable revenue come in from the ad spend.
Exactly. And probably this is the right timing to also address what you said before about net contribution margins, right? And how founders are calculating them. Some of the mistakes that it is becoming like a very dangerous KPIs that founders can calculate over the years of the company. And explain more about that aspect, what's net contribution and how founders should take a look at it.
Yeah. So what the like I mentioned before, the key thing is getting your costs in first, right? And trying to understand like what it is to ship an order, based on your COGS and what all your landed costs are in Shopify. And so we take a look at that at the product level. And so we have the brand usually load in all the costs at the product level, try to back out what the margin is. And then from there, you have a much better idea of what the EBITDA target is. Like, what are you actually trying to make, right? And every brand is different. Some are going to want to have first order profitability. Others may not really care because they have a longer repeat purchase cycle, or that's a subscription brand, or their LTV is much higher than maybe a brand like a company that sells watches or something, and they might sell one per year to one customer, right? So it definitely depends, but the setup is crucial because you want to be able to have the correct information to be able to start making those assumptions, and then from there you can start to back out what your spend needs to be in order to effectively acquire those customers, plus also be profitable on the spend itself. So it differs. I'd say that every client we have has some nuance to them that is different than the other, but the general idea is still the same from the the setup standpoint, alignment with the P&L, and then really trying to just understand or make a decision, what's important to the brand. Is it top line revenue? Is it profitability? Is it first order profitability? Is it more a long-term LTV play? And then we develop our strategy based on that.
Yeah, yeah. And Matt, how is your time and the time you spend on the brand side? Obviously, you spent many years on the brand side as well. How did it help you transition to the agency side? And I know you worked with a lot of agencies on during these times. Yeah, I'd love to learn more about this transition and how it helped you become, an agency owner.
Yeah, I'll say that it was hard at first. I definitely struggled in some ways because starting the agency in 2020, it was right before the pandemic. A lot of things changed, but it was also kind of an interesting time for DC brands where many of them thrived during that period. And so, I had to wear every hat. I was HR, recruiting, accounting. I was running ads myself in the very beginning. But I'd say that the experience that I brought with me from working on the brand side, it helped me in more ways than I thought it would. And also I think my ignorance also helped a lot too, like having not had a point of view of what working inside an agency was like. So we made up a lot of the stuff that we're doing today and is working really well for us. And so we didn't just come with a playbook from another agency or another shop. We kind of just said, these are the problems that we know that as marketers from brands deal with every day. Let's try to address those head on and really try to be a good partner to these people. Let's get a seat at the table long before agencies typically do or get called in, and really focus on adding value wherever we could. And I think that was a big differentiator for us in the beginning and still is today. And it's one of the reasons why we have such a high retention rate. Like our average retention rate is over 90% every year. And we keep clients for a long time. We have some that have been on with us from the very beginning, since the agency started. And so I think that, that aspect of it really helped a lot because the agencies that stuck out to me over the years that I worked with, they all had one thing in common. They were attentive to our needs and they actually cared. They showed that they cared and they were invested in our goals and helping us succeed. And so we really took that and ran with it. And I think that's really helped us a lot.
Yes. I mean, there is a level of growth for an agency where you, on one side, you want to keep, the very close relationship with customers, going to the details and spend a lot of time, but then you need to onboard more customers. And there is a sweet spot, right, that I think a lot of agencies are missing, right? Obviously. And I don't know what you think, but for my experience, I mean, just the speed of iterations has increased a lot, right? You test something, whether it's a creative, a messaging, or whatever, and you wait a few weeks. If it's not working, you kill it and you create another one, and you probably run a lot in parallel, right? And if you find something that sticks, but it's not going to stick a lot of time, right? You need to continue monitor it. Are you experiencing the same kind of work plan or work behavior around Meta and other performance platforms?
Yeah, Meta has changed so much, and that still represents a lion's share of the spirit for many brands. And now the creative is the targeting, right? So we have shifted our approach in response to how the platform works now ever since Andromeda and some of the other key changes that have happened with the algorithm and how that platform works. And so it's really, if you look at some of our ad accounts, the campaign structure is extremely simple, right? There's not really much to it anymore. There's not many targeting levers that you have. So for us, it's more about creative diversity, the velocity of how fast we can get creatives in there, really thinking intentionally about how we test and what key aspects of the creative we're testing. But I'd say that one of the biggest bottlenecks and pain points that brands have is keeping up with the flow of how much creative you actually need to produce in order to fuel the platform, right? So we've worked a lot with our clients on coming up with processes and frameworks and helping them to be able to keep up with that demand, because you see it pretty fast, right? Like as soon as performance drops off and then you layer in some additional creatives, it comes right back. And so we're constantly fighting that battle, and it's really become kind of the key point of contention in a lot of ways with maintaining a high level of performance on that platform.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it used to be you need just the manpower to know how to configure those campaigns. Now it's easy, but the effort moves to just checking data and iterate a lot of times in a higher frequency, right? So just making sure everything continues to grow in the right direction and even maintaining those campaigns that are working very well. So exactly, that's a very important point. So, I mean, I see a lot of founders also, they're just pushing very, very hard for growth and they forget profitability, right? So how do you think they can balance, those two?
That's a great question. It's something that we really try to plant the flag in the ground on, because at the end of the day, like if you're not profitable, then it's going to be hard to sustain the business over a long period of time. So we really try, and this has happened so many times where we'll come in and say, hey, like we've done the analysis and actually your spend is not profitable. Like we need to pull back and to be able to get to a place where it is. And in some cases, especially with smaller brands that are still maybe just trying to figure it out and, have maybe had a good run in the beginning and maybe plateaued in terms of like their performance or growth. So like I said, like we try to think of ourselves as a guide, right? Like we want to be a helpful resource that can, in many ways, educate and act as an expert to an expert resource to these founders. And so we spend a lot of time in some cases in meetings and on the phone in person discussing these things and really helping folks understand our methodology, which is really, hey, we want you to build a sustainable business that can stand the test of time here. So this is the way, right? You might have to reconsider what you're doing tactically, or hey, like sometimes also we might come in and say, look, do a product selling analysis, and say you've got these products that are 10 times more profitable than others, but you keep selling out of them, right? Or you've got too many stories going on. Like we need to focus our effort on doing fewer things better. So yeah, it really depends, but yeah, I'd say that it happens at every level, whether it's a brand doing $1 million a year or a brand doing 25 million a year and trying to get to 50. So there's different, I'd say there's different times in which the conversation shifts, but generally it all goes back to that idea of, hey, what's it going to take in order to be profitable? And here's some ways that we're going to be able to do it.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And Matt, another thing that change is that founders, they have so many options, right? So many sales channels. Assuming a brand is a perfect fit for Meta, let's say, or TikTok ads, right? But there are also so many other options like influencer marketing and the opening TikTok shop and Amazon and going B2B and wholesale. Well, what's your best recommendation, when to start, the performance marketing? And probably definitely it relates to the life cycle of the brand. Maybe I know it's related to the niche, but in general, how do you see the value of that channel today?
Well, I'd say before spending any money, a brand should really do the work to build a brand first and try to, as much as you can, focus on establishing a baseline of reliable organic referral and direct traffic to the site so that you don't have to be over reliant on paid channels. And kind of contradictory to say because we're in the business of running ads and doing performance marketing, but the brands that we see have the most success aren't over reliant on channels like Meta to drive their entire customer acquisition strategy. They're diversified in their marketing and their brand strategy enough to where it only represents 20-30% of the revenue coming in or less in some cases.
Yes.
And they're diversified enough across other channels to where if Meta, say, goes down over the holidays through, in Q4, Black Friday, they're not going to see the bottom drop out. So that's a big deal to us. And so it's hard to do though, right? Like you have to invest in establishing the brand. You have to have a point of differentiation. work with ambassadors, creators, do the legwork to seed product and generate that sort of awareness. And you might have to invest in things that don't have an attributable ROI at first. And so those are the things that I would say are they're much harder to do, but they will pay dividends over time as a brand.
Yes. Yes. And obviously, this is what I heard, right? That if organic works well and retention works well, then performance media works better, right? So, and there is a correlation between organic and earned media, right? So just own versus earned. So I think,
Yes.
right? So yeah, I heard it from a lot of experts, and that's obviously something that and diversification is so important because you cannot rely on one channel, right? It used to be fine that you are successful on Amazon, then you are a candidate for an amazing acquisition, right? But these days are over, right? And one of the first thing that any investor is looking at is or potential acquirer is obviously channel diversification. So definitely just spending on those organic channels as well for email marketing, retention, loyalty programs, whatever content is definitely super, super important. So in terms of like technology or tools that are important for our successful performance media campaign, just beyond obviously, the meta dashboards and analytics, are there anything else that you can highlight or recommend?
Yeah, good question. There's never been more tools available to operators and marketers. And it changes every day, and it can be easy to fall into the trap of trying to bolt on the new shiny toy or the latest Shopify app, but we like to try to keep it simple, to be honest. And a lot of our systems are built on proprietary forecasting tools and stuff that we've developed in-house. Partner with we have a great partner called Store Hero, which I think you've probably heard of, and we work with them very closely, and we've helped them to establish a point of view, or work with us on our point of view to establish some of those aspects into the tool. And yeah, I'd say that between that tool and a lot of what we're building in-house right now, that's kind of it. We use a couple others for creative analysis and trying to understand the creative performance specifically, which saves us a lot of time. But I don't think there's any, there's a lot of attribution tools. There's Triple Whale. There's MMM tools that you can experiment with, but a lot of them aren't going to be the silver bullet in telling you what you're trying to understand. And I think that in a lot of ways, it's like we were talking about earlier, that there's no perfect attribution. There's no one tool or technology that's going to give you the full scope. And so we like to try to triangulate, right? Like we try to understand, like, what are the signals that we're getting from within Shopify, the business itself, like what's going on right there and true with traffic and conversion rate, AOV, actual revenue, new customer orders, what's going on at the channel level, what are we seeing as far as some of the numbers that are coming in there. And then you can, based on the level of spend, if it makes sense, you can start to get into incrementality testing and really trying to get a better sense of what channels are pulling their weight versus others. And then using all that information, that gives us usually a pretty good idea of, okay, spend more here, pull back here. This is working. Do more of that. Let's invest further here. And then that usually gets us pretty close. And so, yeah, but I'd say with AI and with how fast things are moving, it's really easy to fall into a trap of chasing the next, the new shiny toy. But good old fashioned data analysis and being curious about what's going on truly at the business level, and then pulling information that makes sense from these different areas, that's still what works the best.
Yes. Yeah. Like I really like that answer, because there's a kind of an overflow of tools, right? Like a SaaS saturation all over, and one of the things that I see is that you have so many tools, so many data, right? That you don't know what to ask, right? Even you identify a problem, and where do you start? So that's area for the next wave of tech companies, I guess. So yes, so
Analysis paralysis was always.
yeah, yes. But man, tell us more about Sunnyside. Who is your ideal customer profile? What type of budget usually working with?
Yeah, we help lifestyle brands that want to focus on being more profitable and making marketing a profit center, not a cost center. Uh, our ideal client is doing between 10 and $100 million in annual e-commerce revenue. They are in the lifestyle space. So a lot of brands that we work with are apparel brands, footwear brands, accessories, outdoor brands. B2C only. We don't do anything with lead gen or B2B. It's just not anything that we know or understand. We don't touch it. But they all have one thing in common, and that's they're focused on profitable growth. And so our when we find a brand that works well for us, or that we is an ideal partner for us, it's they see us as a true partner, and we become embedded in their business. And that's truly what I think has been the biggest differentiator for us is, again, like I said earlier, is that we often get a seat at the table earlier than maybe an agency typically would. And we really become ingrained in the day-to-day of what's going on in the business and try to offer value as much as we can at every level. I was just talking to Scott on our team who heads up strategy yesterday, and he's like, yeah, I was talking to such and such brand today, and they're asking me about something that was completely irrelevant to what we do, and I'm like, that's great, because that just, that means that they see us as an expert in what we do, and they're looking for us to advise them on all aspects of the business, which we love, and that's where we thrive. And I think that where we are the most effective is helping brands get from or helping look at where brands are today, identifying what the gap is between now and where they're trying to go or what they're trying to achieve, and then building a plan to help them get there. And so we look at every engagement as a long-term engagement. We're not just coming in to try to put a Band-Aid on it. We really want to invest the time into helping them sustainably grow over a long period.
Yeah, it's one strategy to show like very short-term quick wins, right? Versus building a long-term strategy that makes sense, right? This is also
exactly.
Yeah, and it seems that you have you are still sustaining quite successfully these longer-term engagements. You have like a broader view, right, of everything that is, I think, important to succeed in performance. And so well done. What about the creative side of things, Matt? Is it you do internally or usually through external sources?
We do both. So in many cases, the types of brands that we work with have a really tight leash on the creative, or they have a very well established creative team internally, and the creative is the cornerstone of the brand. And so we work with them to not take over the creative and produce it ourselves, but to help them optimize their process and really become more focused on what moves the needle from a creative standpoint with these channels. So we come in, implement processes, work very closely with the creative directors and the design teams, and really implement the flywheel approach to getting the creative velocity going to be able to fuel these channels. In some cases, we handle creative production, and we've been experimenting a lot with AI based creative generation, and it has come a long way. It's very impressive, like where it's at right now, and so we're testing a lot of that right now to help to at least fill the gaps between some of the bigger content shoots and content production that the brands are doing, which we believe still has a place and always should. But like we talked about, to be able to put enough creatives into a channel like Meta requires a lot of content. And so we're able to now be able to fill that gap a little bit, which has been a game changer for us and the brand. So but yeah, I'd say that even more now than ever, the creative is so important, and just a nice diverse set of it, and being able to take advantage of all the different creative buckets within like a channel like Meta is super important. So yeah, it depends on the brand, but more often than not, our role is more focused on helping them to uh, get the machine going and be able to optimize their process.
Mhm. Great, Matt. So how brands can find you?
Yeah, we're at sunnysidecalifornia.com. You can look me up on LinkedIn, Matt Raminick. I'm pretty active on there. I'd love to hear from your listeners, and I'm always happy to answer questions and help out as much as I can. I love meeting new people and connecting with folks. So yeah, reach out, hit me up. I'm based in Southern California. I love coffee, so if you want to come grab a coffee with me, hit me up.
Yeah, one of the most beautiful places also to visit, right? So, um, great, Matt. Anything else you want to add?
No, that's it. I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And it's been a great conversation.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. A lot of insights. Thank you so much, Matt. All the best.
Appreciate that. Thank you.